This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not too bad. How about you?
Good. We've had another good week here. Always good weeks at Massive Late Fee. We recently recorded a special podcast with the Skeptical Skeptics. That will be coming out in about 3 weeks. We'll let you know a little bit closer to the time that it's going to be released. But we're talking JFK conspiracy and a couple other things. But that was very fun to do. We enjoy our time with the Skeptical Skeptics. They're definitely a great podcast. If you're interested in that kind of thing, absolutely check them out. They do a fantastic job over there. That was a lot of fun, don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, I really enjoy the one we had yesterday and the previous one we had with them. They're really fun people to talk to.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Really, even if you just follow them on Twitter, there's a lot of interesting facts, that you get from there.
Yeah, they're very active on Twitter. They post almost every day at SkepPod on Twitter. But into the news today, Mike, I know you said you've got a news story. Do you want to go first, or you want to save it for last?
It doesn't matter to me. My news is that Kevin Smith is actually auctioning off some of his old hockey jerseys.
Interesting, really?
Yeah, since he had a very massive heart attack last year. It was actually around this time, I think, almost a year, maybe a little after. At this point, he's auctioning off quite a few of them. They seem to be in the $200 range as of now, but I'm sure that'll even just go up.
Well, he might have worn some of those in films too.
I mean, I definitely recognize some of them. I don't know if they were necessarily. I mean, I've seen lots of pictures of him and different things he's done, on podcasts and stuff. I'm, as we both know, we're fans of Kevin Smith.
Right.
I mean, there's the one with the Darth Vader helmet and that kind of thing. You'd recognize him if you saw them. You just have to go to his Twitter and he's retweeted the link.
Cool. Yeah, I will definitely check that out. I don't know. That would be interesting to own a Kevin Smith jersey.
Well, he smells like Muse.
But yeah, there's a few news items this week that I thought were somewhat interesting. The whole Jussie Smollett saga, it continues to play out. This is the actor from Empire who was either savagely attacked by people unprovoked who shouted homophobic and racist slurs while they beat him up, or they were people he paid to beat him up for reasons unknown. I mean, I can't think of why he would want to do this. I mean, reportedly, they attacked him and they shouted Empire faggot and Empire N-word at him because he is homosexual and black while he was
and
doing
on
this.
Empire.
Yeah, exactly. My wife said when I was talking to her about this story, she said that maybe that was for publicity, which got me laughing because I was just thinking while they're being Empire faggot. Oh, by the way, watch Empire 8 o'clock on Sunday on Fox. But it just
every week we see you right after House MD.
Exactly.
Or whatever's on, I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't watch the show actually, but I hear it's good. But yeah, so that's a bizarre story. Obviously, if he did pay them to do this and then lied about being the victim of a hate crime, his career is surely over, and he would definitely be facing some sort of jail time. Just odd story.
It's very strange. I mean, if it is in fact what happened that he paid these people, I don't know how you would think you would get away with anything in this day and age, especially in a big city like Chicago where there's just cameras everywhere.
Right. Yeah, he obviously he denies this. The two people were arrested or were not arrested, but brought into the police station in connection to this, but they were released. And most of what has come out is basically rumor. The police obviously aren't commenting since it's an active investigation right now. It is a little curious that if they were the men involved that they weren't arrested, but I guess we'll just have to see how all of this plays out.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining for sure.
Speaking of things that are entertaining, maybe. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a show called The Banana Splits. It was a
I've
British,
heard of it. I've never seen it though.
yeah,
Or
it was like a British live action animated mashup from Hanna Barbera, in between 1968 and 1970. They are going to reboot it as a horror film.
oh, geez.
So a Hanna Barbera inspired horror movie. I can kind of see this. I don't think I've actually ever seen the show. I've seen images of the show, and it reminds me kind of HR Puff and stuff, which I have seen. Some of those Sid and Marty Krofft things with the giant puppets with the big heads. So
Yeah.
I could see that as nightmare fodder for some people.
Have it directed by Guillermo del Toro, and I'm in.
Right, exactly. What else we got here? So Star Wars. So the Star Wars news that you love so much. The trailer for the new Star Wars Episode 9 is supposed to come out in April. Uh, the Avengers Infinity War Part 2, what's it called? Endgame, is also coming out in April. So I assume that they're releasing it then to coincide with the release of the Avengers movie so that it can get shown in the as a trailer in the theater while Avengers is out, since they're both owned by Disney. That kind of makes sense to me. Are you looking forward to seeing the new Star Wars film, or you just don't care?
Not at all. I just couldn't care less. What I find odd is they pay so much for advertising for like the Avengers or like Star Wars. I mean, do they really? How much influence does it really have? You know, like, oh, if we don't put a commercial for Star Wars, no one will see it.
Yeah, I honestly think that they could just release one into the theater tomorrow, and it might take a few days for people to hear, "Oh, hey, there's a new Star Wars movie," but that would travel on social media so quickly if
Yeah,
they
it wouldn't even take a day when Beyonce released an album just like by surprise a few years ago. Like everybody knew about it the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And people would rush out to see it. I agree with you. I don't think they really even need to spend any money on this at all.
They could just have a video of George Lucas counting money, and then people go, "Oh, Star Wars." I guess he probably. I don't know if he has any percentage in the company anymore. If he just sold it outright to Disney.
He sold it outright, and then he got money and he got Disney stock in return, but I believe he sold all of his Disney stock.
Oh, that was probably not very bright.
Right, exactly.
He's gonna starve now.
But speaking of more Disney news, they obviously Hugh Jackman is out as Wolverine. He stepped down a while ago, said that he doesn't want to portray the character anymore. I think he feels he's gotten a little too old. He's done it for long enough, kind of thing. They're talking about recasting him, because he eventually will show up in the MCU because Disney bought Fox and all their properties. So they're about to take control of both the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Rob Liefeld is unhappy with some of the casting rumors that are out there. These are all just rumors, obviously. But he reacted on Twitter to the names Daniel Radcliffe and Zac Efron being considered for Wolverine. I Radcliffe, he seems, it's so hard to tell when you see somebody on screen, but he seems short to me. Efron does too, kind of. So I can kind of see where they're
See,
coming from.
I think Daniel Radcliffe for sure seems kind of short. Um, I don't think he'd be a terrible choice. I mean, Wolverine's like a kind of small guy, you know.
Hmm.
But I mean, obviously Daniel Radcliffe. Well, I don't know why I say obviously. I've never seen him act in anything in my life, but he apparently is a good actor.
Yeah.
So you just have to be like, have to obviously build up a bit of muscle. But I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
also, can they can they find a Canadian for this role?
Yeah, no kidding. That would be great if they found like an unknown short Canadian actor.
Oh no, I was hoping like Bruce McCullough. He doesn't look very tall.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Like 15 years ago, Bruce McCullough would have been perfect.
Yeah, yeah, we're killing Magneto.
Oh my god! Because I remember when he used to when he that what was that one sketch where he wanted to fight that guy and he's just
And
he
I can't remember the character name, but yeah, that was a reoccurring sketch. That was pretty good.
oh yeah, that is totally Wolverine.
I know you said that Mark McKinney's in like that one show about like Walmart or whatever.
Superstore, yep.
Um, but yeah, I don't really know why none of the kids in the hall have really been in a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously Dave Foley was on news radio for a time,
Yep.
and like Scott Thompson kind of appears here and there, and I think Bruce was directing for a while.
Yeah, I think he
But
does
I
a
mean,
lot
they're
of
all
stuff behind the
super.
camera.
Yeah, they're all like super talented. I mean, they're all hilarious. They can write, they can act. They're funny. I just don't get that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know if it's I don't know. I don't know if there's some sort of bias against them maybe if their humor is a little too Canadian English and not enough
Yeah,
American.
it could be. I mean, but Mike Myers kind of has the same sentiment, as far as comedy goes.
That's true.
Although I haven't seen a movie from him in a while either.
But yeah, I obviously both of us love the Kids in the Hall, and I love all of them. Brain Candy was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, and yeah, it's weird that they haven't done more. Probably the most mainstream successful one was probably Dave Foley. I would assume, although Scott Thompson or not Scott Thompson, the one on Superstore. I can't think of his name now.
Mark McKinney.
Mark McKinney. Yeah, he's had later in his career now. He's had more of a resurgence. Scott Thompson is like I think he was doing something with comics recently as maybe 5 years ago or something like that. But I can't remember.
Sure. I know he's been on Conan quite a few times. He was doing plays for a while. The Kids in the Hall a couple years ago did a thing, like a mini series in Canada. I think it was called Death Comes to Town or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't see it, but they toured like a good I don't know, I'd say 5 years ago at this point. My wife and I saw them, and it was just the best. I mean, they were so good live; it was amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome. I would definitely, if they were going to reboot anything, I would love to see a reboot of the Kids in the Hall, either the TV show or just bring them back together to do a movie or
Yeah,
something like that.
Netflix. If you're looking for a new series, call up the Kids in the Hall.
Absolutely, yeah, they would be brilliant. Especially, we need comedy like that in today's climate. There's not enough of the kind of comedy they did.
Yeah, it's just great.
But the last bit of news that I have is apparently Blumhouse has the rights to Scream and Hellraiser, I guess, because they're talking about doing reboots. This is still in the planning stages, but doing reboots of both Hellraiser and the Scream films. I'm mixed on this in the fact that I think rebooting Hellraiser could be interesting. You could do something interesting with that. Scream, I don't see the need anymore. I mean, Scream.
Yeah, I don't see an improvement that's possible for Scream. The
Yeah,
first Scream movie was amazing.
yeah, and the thing is like Scream came out to sort of. I mean, it wasn't exactly a parody of horror movies, but it was like a meta horror movie where
Oh,
it
for sure, yeah.
where it kind of it reinvigorated and reinvented the genre, and I just don't. If you're a big horror fan, like some people I know are, and I'm kind of a periphery horror fan, there's some really good work being done in horror movies, not necessarily the mainstream ones, the big blockbuster ones, but in a lot of ones that come out on Netflix or are on other streaming services. There's some really good work being done in horror currently, and I just don't really see the need for a Scream like film right now. And like you said, I don't see how they could improve upon it really in any way.
Oh, that's a really amazing movie in a lot of ways. I mean, just Wes Craven and I think Kevin Williamson is the guy's name who was doing Dawson's Creek at the time. They kind of came together,
Yep.
and he had an idea for. I think it was actually originally called Scary Movie, which is also the name of the parody movie. I think there's more parodies of Scream than there's actual Scream movies at this point.
Yeah.
I think there's 4 Screams, and like there's quite a few of the what do you call it?
Scary movies and yeah.
Scary movie and that kind of stuff.
The what is it? Friedman and Seltzer. I think those are the guys that do those movies.
I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I mean the original one, like was just there was a lot of like inside references. Like Drew Barrymore was like billed as like one of the biggest stars in the movie, and she dies almost immediately, much like Janet Leigh in the original Psycho, and
Yep.
probably the shot by shot remake as well.
Yeah, exactly. The Anne Heche version.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, it's just,
1998's greatest.
there's a lot of inside, reference. It's just a really like great, movie. But I mean, the second one was okay. Then the third one they tried to claim was a trilogy from the onset. Okay.
Right.
Um, it's like, oh, if you make a third movie, it doesn't mean you made a trilogy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you just made three films. Trilogies
Yeah,
have to be planned from kind of the beginning, basically.
pretty much to have any payoff whatsoever.
But yeah, that is the news for this week. I will get into what we're watching. Mike, my what we're watching is going to be pretty boring because I forgot that the Oscars are this Sunday. So, and I have to watch all the films for the website so I can write about them. So I've been watching the last like 3 days. I've been watching all the films that are nominated for Best Picture, and yeah, it's so I watched Vice, the Adam McKay movie starring Christian Bale about Dick Cheney. I watched A Star Is Born. I watched Green Book, Black Klansman, and I think one more. I'm trying to think. I had already seen Roma and Black Panther. I haven't seen The Favorite yet. That's the last one that I have to see. And I thought there was one. Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody. I watched that too.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is the favorite the name of the movie?
Yeah, it's
Someone named a Oscar worthy movie called The Favorite,
I know it should win just based on that, but
or lose just based on that.
it's based. I think it's Queen Elizabeth the First. I think, and it's like which girl am I gonna fuck? Movie. That's what it is.
Oh,
It's Rachel. I think it's Rachel Weisz and
okay.
Emma Stone. So it's like which one of those girls is she gonna sleep with? That's the plot of the movie, I believe. I haven't actually seen it yet. But they're like Bohemian Rhapsody was just bad. I mean, the like it was Bohemian Rhapsody was the opposite of drama in a film. It was like, hey, Queen has a hit with Killer Queen. They need a new hit. Oh, we just wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, and then they move on to the next scene, and it's like the most tension in the movie is Remy Malik playing Freddie Mercury. Obviously, as we know now, is homosexual, and he was engaged to a girl that he met in the beginning of the film and everything, and they have a conversation at one point, and she goes, "Are you gay?" And he basically, I'll paraphrase the most dramatic scene in the film. Are you gay? Yeah. Yeah, I always kind of knew that. That's okay. We can still be friends. And they hug. I mean, it's like anytime any small problem arises, it's instantly solved. So yeah, not
You got AIDS, right? Yeah, I'm gonna die though. Okay.
I'm
Want to
okay.
do a concert right beforehand?
Yeah,
Kinda.
yeah, I'm okay with it because I lived a good life. Uh, but yeah, like it's just it's ridiculous the way it is. Vice was okay. Christian Bale is really good in it, but it's Adam McKay. I like some of the work that he does. The Big Short was interesting, but
I like that book. It was really good.
he does the same sort of style kind of here where there's a narrator kind of guiding you through the story. There's some parts that are pretty funny actually, and there are some parts that are good as far as dramatic scenes go, but it's so weirdly structured and weirdly paced that I can't really call it a great movie. It's okay. And Christian Bale does an absolutely fantastic job as Dick Cheney. And it's not just the makeup. It's not just him gaining the weight in the makeup. The voice, the mannerisms, the emotion that he puts behind, or lack of emotion that he puts behind everything that he says is. I mean, you don't. It just seems like it's Dick Cheney on the screen. He does an absolutely fantastic job in that movie. I just watched *A Star Is Born*. I didn't love it. It's average basically. Green Book is the one that I think should win. Green Book is a really, really good film. And Viggo Mortensen from Lord of the Rings, he plays a like kind of a mobbed up New York guy here.
He plays a ranger, is what he plays.
Yeah, well, he is fantastic. I mean, he is such a good actor to like the range of roles that he goes to. It's incredible. So he's very good in the film, and Marshalala Ali, who's from not Game of Thrones, House of Cards, who's from House of Cards. That's the first place that I saw him in. He was in also Nick, not Nick Cage. What is his name? Luke Cage, on Netflix. He's very good in the film too. He's probably going to win Best Supporting Actor. He's fantastic in the movie. Green Book's the one I think the best out of all those.
Yeah, none of those sound even remotely appealing to me.
I don't think you'd be very interested in it.
But I'd say Bohemian Rhapsody, like the actual way it was written, I think it was like a really long struggle to write the song. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't have dramatized that. Maybe because it was really centric on Freddie Mercury, and I heard that a lot of the movie was like, oh, let's make sure Queen's in this part because Queen like owned the rights to it or something. Like it
Yeah,
was like way more Queen than you want.
yeah. Brian May is one of the producers. I noticed that on the film,
I
and
think I saw them win some award, and Brian May was there.
yeah. So I can definitely see that complication in it. But yeah, the writing of Bohemian Rhapsody it didn't seem hard at all. The hardest part was they had to convince the record producer to let them do it. And that was one
Played by
short
Mike
scene.
Myers.
Yeah, played by Mike Myers, exactly.
That's fun.
But yeah, what have you been watching this week?
Oh, as usual, I've been watching a lot of the Hot Ones. I love that show.
Yeah, me too.
I'll just watch any episode, and if I don't know the person, it'll still be fun. Another show I've recently gotten into on on YouTube is I just watch YouTube apparently at this point. It's called I'm gonna mess this up. It's called Frankenstein's Machine or something like that.
Okay.
That's a channel. It's just like these two guys who like watch like comedy clips and comment on them. It's really funny. I don't know why. Just they're huge fans of comedy. You can tell, and they're just cracking up and like it's just like almost like being in an audience watching these clips. I've been watching a lot of those recently.
We should steal that idea and do that on the podcast.
Nice.
No, but that sounds good. I'll check that one out. You turned me on to
Yeah,
Hot Ones,
they
and
have
I
a
love that show.
they have a ton of like views. They have like 1 million views on some of these videos of them just it's like literally them sitting on a couch watching a clip.
Wow, that is hilarious.
Yeah, I enjoy it. They're funny.
Oh, wow. Educating Mike today. We're going to be educating you on something that I was educated on as well, and it sounds absolutely horrifying. I think maybe we should do it for a one of our famous audio commentaries, but we'll see. Since we're talking today about murder game films that have a game to the death in them, or some kind of hunting aspect, something like that. I decided that I was going to do one of the many parodies of the genre, trying to capitalize on the Hunger Games, the Hungover Games. The Hungover Games is a 2014 parody movie based on both The Hangover and The Hunger Games.
Oh, that's just I can just tell it's going to be bad just by the concept alone.
Apparently, they have references to Ted, Pirates of the Caribbean, Avatar, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Human Centipede, The Lone Ranger, Django Unchained, Thor, Carrie, District 9, and The Real Housewives in here as well. I love that nowadays parody movies are just, hey, have you seen the trailer to this film? Well, we're going to
Yeah,
make
because
fun
like,
of it.
I would miss at least half these references. 'Cause I don't know what the hell you're talking about with half of that stuff.
When they did movies like Airplane or Top Secret or stuff like that in the early 80s, kind of when the parody with the Abrams brothers and Zucker, when they sort of came to resurgence again, they used to just be, you didn't have to see any of the movies. They just They just had jokes. They were
Yeah,
based on some either genre of film that they were parodying
yeah, like
or
Top Secret is actually spy movies and that sort of thing.
exactly. And it was just they just had jokes. I mean, Austin Powers
Although
is a lot like that too.
sure, although I do actually, there is one exception. The Mel Brooks movie High Anxiety is specifically a parody of a lot of like Hitchcock movies, and if you don't watch those, you won't know what he's talking about.
That's true for sure. But yeah, so I hate all the and these references. They date the movie immediately, basically.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So here's the plot of the Hungover Games.
Oh jeez.
Four friends are heading out for a bachelor party for their friend Doug, who is marrying a man named Tracy. So he's gay in this one, so that's progressive. They
Get
just,
it?
yeah,
Because that's funny.
you're right. They decide to have a quiet, subdued night at a small hotel in Laughlin, Nevada. They put their
Ooh, I
friend
don't think it'll be subdued.
right. They put their friend Zach in a straitjacket and cone to ensure he does not drug them, and they drink non-alcoholic beer. When they wake up the next morning, they find they are in a strange room littered with party and sex toys and realize that Doug is, again, missing. A woman named Effing, which is just the funniest joke in the world,
Yeah.
walks in and Zach recognizes her as a remake of Effie Trinket, who's from the Hunger Games. That's I can't think of her name, but the blonde actress, she's in that huge hair and all that garish makeup.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so when Ed attempts to leave, he opens the door only to realize they are on a train, and Zach realizes that they are in the Hunger Games, or as Effing calls it, the Hungover Games, a fight to the death in an arena between various Hollywood districts. The three watch a video on Zach's phone and realize that Doug and the trio volunteered as tribute the previous night in their drunken state. The three then realize that they will have to fight in the games to find Doug and get him back to the wedding in time. Yeah, they don't explain exactly. It's a mystery.
So,
like
so
like the
they're
Hangover.
aware they're in a parody.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that. How you'll
Oh. At the training center, the three become acquainted with other tributes and the heavily favored career tributes, including homosexual Thor, Tonto, gratuitous
What?
yeah, gratuitous nudity, which are two topless women, Carrie, nicknamed Scary. So that's a reference to the Carrie remake. So definitely timely.
wow.
And Ted, the bear, reference to the
Ted movie.
yeah. I couldn't think of what's his name, the creator, Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane.
Ed meets Catnip Everleen. Catnip Everleen, a girl he met the previous night while drunk and who likes him. Soon, training ends and they are sent to rooms where they will ascend into the arena. While searching the rooms, they see a man ascending into the arena but cannot see his face and are forced to leave after Zack spills bubble tea on the room's electronic controls. So that's some foreshadowing right there. They're missing a guy, and then someone ascends the arena who they can't see. The games begin, and the tributes begin murdering each other. Zach becomes separated from Ed and Bradley. It's funny, too, because they name them Ed and Bradley and Zach, the actual actors' first names. So,
Okay.
also very creative. The two flee and spend the night in a tree to sleep, but witness the careers murder the two other tributes. They see Zach and with the careers and realize that Zach has allied with them to help them find and kill Ed and Bradley. In the morning, Bradley is urged by another tribute, Little Boo, to drop a hive of swagger jacks, and then it says in parentheses wasps, onto the careers sleeping below them. In the process, Bradley and Ed are stung several times, and the hallucinogenic venom causes them to pass out. So I can picture that scene where they're just running away from wasps. That's always funny.
Oh yeah. Except for in the movie My Girl, wasn't as funny.
That's true. That's true. It was a little more tragic then. They awaken and find Zach has nursed them back to health, and they go search for Doug again. Zach reveals that the reason they are in the hungover games is because the previous night he plugged in air fresheners that were midnight berry scented, and that the scent of the poisonous berries drugged them. It's so convoluted.
Why would they sell that?
I don't know.
I'm glad I didn't use a cyanide air freshener.
He also reveals that the air fresheners, quote, may cause transportation to futuristic dystopia. So I guess that's a warning label on the air freshener. Another dynamite joke.
Right.
Enraged, Ed and Bradley leave Zach, who is later seduced by a female avatar. He is ambushed by the careers, but is saved by Catnip and Boo, who kill gratuitous nudity, though the female avatar is also murdered. Aw. Meanwhile, Ed and Bradley decide to reunite with Zach after a rule change states that 4 men who share a bromance can win all together. Ed and Bradley find Zach, Catnip, and Boo, and remember that Boo may know where Doug is. I don't know why they think that. They didn't reveal that earlier in this plot summary, but before she can say, she is killed by Thor, who is murdered by Ed in retaliation. After a short funeral for Boo, Catnip decides to leave on her own to kill Tonto. I guess Tonto because the that remake of the Lone Ranger, I guess,
I guess.
with
Yeah.
Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp. Oh, God. The 3 decide to head back to the Pornocopia, which is what they call it instead of Cornucopia, after an announcement that something everyone is looking for is located there. Assuming it is Doug. I don't know why. Why do they think everyone is looking for Doug? The 3 rush to the Pornocopia, but are attacked by Carrie. Zach murders Carrie in a rage. Ted and the other 2 puppets attack the 3, but Zach is able to blow them up using his Hunger Games' book, and Catnip returns and saves Ed from Ted. She reveals she was mortally wounded in her fight with Tonto and dies with Ed beside her. The 3 realize that their prize of the Pornocopia is a cell phone and not Doug, and they realize that they will never find him, so they call Tracy to inform him of the situation. However, after a short conversation with Zach, Ed realizes where Doug is and stops Bradley from making the call. Explaining that Doug's tube never came up because Zach's bubble tea short-circuited the tube that sends up tributes. After looking in his tube, they realize Doug isn't there, but Doug emerges from the forest, camouflaged, and attacks them, berating them about how they always forget him and how he's almost never in the movies. The 3 tell him they will never forget him again and that he will have more lines in the next film, and he decides to spare them. God, this sounds fucking torturous.
It does not sound good.
Okay, we're almost to the end. Another rule change states that there can only be 1 victor, and the 4 turn on each other. Zach proposes that they all eat poisonous berries, as the creators of the game would never let them all die. They would rather have 4 victors than none, and so would interrupt the 4 before they can eat the poison. Zach's plan fails after they eat the berries and all die with no one stopping them. Now here's the worst part of this film. They wake up in their hotel room, realizing it was all just a shared dream. The 4 go to the wedding, where Ed laments about Catnip, but runs into an identical-looking girl who seems to be attracted to him. So it was all, I mean, just the worst of endings. 1, it's all a dream. And 2, it's somehow all a dream they shared.
And it told his future as well.
Yeah, I don't get it. Oh, it sounds like the worst piece of shit. I mean, most of these movies are pretty bad. This one sounds particularly terrible. So that is Educating Mike for this week. Now we have another special surprise for you guys. We're going to be having some more of these because I've been talking to... We've got Hollywood connections now, y'all. But we are going to go to an interview that we conducted, or I conducted, with a hot young actor on a new TV show on Amazon called Rodney Damon Collins. So Give it up for Rodney Damon Collins. All right, everybody. Now we are joined by our special guest today, actor Rodney Damon Collins. You can see him on Chosen Kin, which is on Amazon Prime. You can also see him on the web series Single Life. You can find that on YouTube. Welcome, Rodney Damon Collins. How are you?
Hey, Mark. I'm feeling great, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Feeling good, feeling fine, and ready to do this, man.
We definitely appreciate you coming on. I know that you're from Ohio originally, Toledo. You said correct?
Yes, grew up in Toledo, Ohio.
So that's pretty close for us right here in Michigan. And you did a lot of local theater and things like that in the Cleveland area, correct?
Correct. And one play I was in before leaving the Cleveland area was entitled Soulmate, and I was at the famous Playhouse Square Theater. So it was a great time.
Yeah, that's I think that it seems to me, it used to be that you had to be in New York or the Los Angeles area to kind of break into show business. A lot of these regional theaters have popped up in different areas. The same with comedy, like Second City and things like that. Do you find that it's easier now for anyone around the country to hone their craft as opposed to having to take the leap and move to LA or New York right away?
I would definitely say anybody who has a desire to become an actor or get involved in the arts in any way, there are a lot more vehicles out there for somebody to do that in their local, in their location where they're at right now. One of my mentors always says that before you move to Los Angeles, New York, or Atlanta to take your career to another level, is that you should be doing work wherever you're living, whatever city you're in, to build and hone your craft.
And how did you make the decision to pack up and move to California?
Oh, okay, it's pretty cool. The way it happened, well, first of all, I've always wanted to live in Los Angeles. Used to come out a lot as a kid. I have a lot of family out here. Used to spend a lot of summers out here hanging out and just really enjoying the whole vibe of the area. So that's one thing. I always had plans on moving here. What happened is about a little over 4 years ago, I received a job offer because I did youth development in my other vocation. So I received a job offer to come out here and start a new branch of this organization out here. Mm-hmm. So that was the vehicle that allowed our family to start the transition to moving to Los Angeles.
That's great. Now, would you say that that being on Chosen Kin on the Amazon Prime original, would you consider that being kind of like your big break in acting?
I would say yeah, because you look at the fact that Chosen Kin, this started as a web series, became a comic book, and now it's a graphic novel. They have an app for the show now, but it started building and gaining recognition overseas and in Europe and then in China, and then it came back to the United States, and now the show is on a platform like Amazon. So I would say yes, for me, that was one of the things that helped really launch that propel my career to another level.
Now, February is Black History Month, and do you find that as a black actor that it's more difficult? There are more limited roles for you out there, or do you think that Hollywood has progressed to the point where you have similar opportunities to, like your white counterparts?
I will say this, that Hollywood is progressing. Mm-hmm. I would look at the fact that for however many years it was predominantly white male roles or white female roles available, and that any roles for any black actors, they would typically be a very small supporting role, or as we used to joke about in the horror movies, the black guy would be the first person to be killed in the horror movie.
Right.
So, but I would say that things are changing, even so to the point where you look at the fact that they're looking at Idris Elba to be the next James Bond, possibly. Mm-hmm. So, that's like you know, earth shattering. I'm not sure how people will receive that overall, but I think it's really that shows signs of progression. I still believe that it's important that we as actors and producers and creatives that we create our own work
Right.
and tell our stories and then submit those stories and try to and get those stories on various platforms. I think it's very important to do it that way as well.
So would you say that the key as far as getting more equality in Hollywood is black writers and directors, having more avenues to tell their own kind of stories?
Definitely. And you look at the fact like some of my favorite actresses, you look at Regina King and Kerry Washington, Viola Davis, these actresses who are phenomenal, and I've met each and every one of them. They are amazing people, but now they have contracts with major networks to produce and write content. So I think that's when you start gaining that influence to tell different stories.
I know you have a book coming out March 15th called Shattered. Anyone out there, you can find that on Amazon. You can pre-order that now. Tell us a little bit about, your inspiration for writing that and kind of what the book's about.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. That book is entitled Shattered, A Journey Through the Pieces. What is not an autobiography, but what I've done is that I've taken bits and pieces from my life, different stories, and I share and to help encourage people. I want somebody to feel like when they pick up my book, it's almost like that book should be glowing in their hands. I wanted to charge them because I experienced a lot of heartbreak in life. But what I've learned to do, I've learned to take a lot of that heartbreak and use it to drive me to where I'm at now and learn those valuable lessons and those principles from each experience. I even had a bout of mental illness as a result of a major failure that took me down for nearly 6 to 8 months. And I talk about that in my book. I talk about the fact that you are not alone. I talk about the fact that you can get help. I talk about the fact that our job here is to serve each other.
Yeah,
I look at the
absolutely.
fact that, yeah, it's in order to really achieve your goals in life, you have to be willing to help other people see their goals come to pass. And that's kind of like a paraphrase on Zig Ziglar's statement a long time ago, where he said, if you help enough people get what they're looking for in life, eventually you'll get what you're seeking. So that's what my book is really about.
That's great. So what do you think would be your dream scenario to success in the acting field?
Dream scenario.
Yeah.
Right now, I could say that someone would discover me from my Amazon show and call me in, because that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Call me in for an opportunity on a network TV show. That's one of my goals this year, is to become a series regular on network TV. When I say network TV, I'm talking CBS, NBC, the CW, Fox, those networks. I'm talking ABC. I'm talking about those.
Right.
So that would be a dream scenario for me this year. And I do my dreams now in increments. I don't say, well, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I've learned to be present in the moment that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at this year, that would be a dream scenario for me this year.
That's great. And I know you just finished wrapping on Emerson Heights, which is a movie that will be out later this year. Tell us a little about the experience of working on that film.
It was it was an amazing experience. It was the first speaking role I actually received when I moved here to Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's a romantic comedy, and this is a lesson for everyone out there listening. I was invited to come help on a shoot day for the film. Originally, I didn't have any lines for the show and for the film, but I showed up. I treated it as if I was already a principal actor for the project.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually there. I was actually at the set before any of the other crew arrived. The director, I was there ready to go. I treated it very professionally. As we started running the scenes, the executive producer came up to me and said, Rodney, hold up for a second. So they called basically a little break on the set, and they came back to me and said, we need to give you some lines to interact more with the principal actor. We're going to make you a principal for this film now. So that blew me away. That was a little over 3 years ago that the film was shot. And what I would want people to understand is that when you go, once again, the principal I said, when you try to help people achieve what they're trying to do, you get what you're looking for. That's the main example right there.
Yeah.
I was just going to help them shoot their project, and before you know it, I became a principal actor in the project.
And the Job Interview is another film that you have coming out soon. What's that film about?
So it's a pretty cool film. It's a sci-fi mafia type film.
Okay.
And my character is Craig Usher. There's some established people in the industry. There's a singer, Howard Hewitt. He's in the film. Actress Patrice Fisher. I actually play her husband in the film. She's been in several films, and she's been in the industry for 20 plus years. So that's just a couple to name a few. We shot the film in Vegas. It was kind of cool. This film was shot in 3 locations. So we shot it in Vegas, Fresno, California, and then in New York City. And it's going to be coming out for distribution later on this year. You'll be able to find it in like Walmart and Target. But my character is he has kind of a metamorphosis happens to him because he's very naive to begin, but then he starts discovering some things about his family, and eventually there's an event that happens in the film which changes what this person is going to be like.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today, Rodney. We've had a pleasure talking to you. Everyone check out Rodney Damon Collins on Chosen Kin, on Amazon, on Single Life, on YouTube. Where can people find you online and keep up with what you're doing?
I would love for people to follow me on Instagram, Rodney Damon Collins, Rodney. Damon, Damon, Collins, Collins, and Twitter. This Rodney Damon Collin. They wouldn't allow me to put the S. They said it's too long. They cut the S off. But I still wanted to keep that branding of my name. I want to be easy to find. And I would love you guys to follow me there. You'll see more updates about the book. I'll be sharing more. I'll be sharing a video about the book coming up. And I'm just looking forward to just telling more compelling stories that make you laugh, make you cry, make you want to run, make you want to do whatever.
Right.
But most importantly, I want to move people to action. So thank you guys very much for listening to me today. Thank
you for coming on, Rodney. It's been a great conversation. So check out Rodney Damon Collins, and again, go to Chosen Kin on Amazon Prime and The Single Life on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Rodney. Okay, that was our interview with Rodney Damon Collins. We want to thank him again for joining us. Very good conversation. Hopefully, he is a breakout star from Amazon Prime, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on that, Mike.
Yep.
But our main topic this week is murder games, as I said, or murder game movies. These are films that, like the Hunger Games, that feature some sort of competition to the death. You've got to fight your way out or you're going to die kind of thing. Mike, what are some of your favorites that you found in this genre of film? Interesting that this is kind of a genre all to itself, but it does definitely exist. There's a lot of examples that I found for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot for sure. I don't know, it's just one of my favorite genres of movie or even book. Some of these are based on books. A lot of them are based off of Joseph Conrad's The Most Dangerous Game.
Right.
Actually, the whole base of the genre is, there's you're the most dangerous, creature to hunt is man, which is, a common theme throughout these.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are blended with other, they seem to be almost like a, dystopian type future happens in a lot of them. That societies become so corrupt that for entertainment, they will allow people to kill each other and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
like I've seen the Hunger Games movie. I don't really understand what's going on in it because I haven't seen all of it. I've just seen like the fighting parts. I know there's like some weird, like kind of like dystopian type future where I don't understand why they have the Hunger Games. I mean, I'm sure they explain it. I assume.
They kind of do. Well, like they explain why they created the Hunger Games. See, I guess I haven't read the books. I've seen some of the movies with my daughter and my wife, who they both like these movies. They've seen them all. I've only seen a few of them, but basically, they rebelled against the Capitol, and as punishment, they created the Hunger Games. To basically, you have to give up two of your young children each year to be part of this Hunger Games. So it's basically a punishment for the revolution against the Capitol. That's the reason why they divided the United States into 13 districts. I don't really know. But that's the other thing in the movies. I don't think they really make it clear that they're in the United States. But in the books, it's a little more clear that this is a dystopian future and not some kind of parallel world. But yeah,
Oh,
the Hunger Games is definitely probably the most famous one of all these. I know that there was a legal battle between the book, Suzanne Collins' book, and Battle Royal, which is a Japanese
yeah. I would say
movie.
I've seen that movie, and it's almost the exact same concept. It's a futuristic type government where what they do is they take one class from a certain grade every year, and they kind of like put them on like I think it's an island. I could be wrong,
No, you're right.
and each kid starts with with a backpack, and the backpack might have like a decorative fan, or it might have like an AK-47. And it's just like they claim it's luck of the draw, but later in the movie they kind of imply that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm not shocked by that at all because it's almost the same movie.
Yeah, basically, what the court found was that Suzanne Collins had early drafts of the book that she was writing before the movie was actually released and everything. And it was obviously a smaller, more regional film. It didn't have any kind of breakout success in the United States or Europe, really. So basically, what the court found was that it was a coincidence that both parties had similar ideas at around the same time ish, and that one wasn't influenced by the other one. So she was kind of cleared of the plagiarism charges. But it is interesting how similar they are. They are very similar ideas. Battle Royale is a little more brutal, I think,
Oh, for
than
sure.
the Hunger Games is.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not really a very unique idea to begin with. Because one of my favorites in this genre, which my friend Matt hates because he's an idiot, is the Running Man with
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep, that's one of my favorites too.
As I'm sure you know, it's based off a Stephen King or writing as Richard Bachman novella, which I think that is. I would love to see somebody film that version of it. It's so much better.
I agree. I agree.
The novella is like it's like basically someone, and it's not like they have people who hunt you down, but
Hmm.
it's not you're not like put in little zones because really you could almost say that the Running Man's a microcosm of the Hunger Games or Battle Royale
Yep.
because they shift you through different areas and you have different people trying to attack you. It's just you're not trying to attack the other contestants.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. The
yeah, but
for those of people that don't know, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger is basically it's a game show, and he's put into this like it's a big arena, but it's like a big underground arena, and then other people are hunting him, and he has to look for things to survive. The book is much different than that.
yeah, in the movie, he's a former criminal who
Yeah.
escaped, and then they basically offer him a chance to be on the Running Man, and if he succeeds, then he's not a criminal anymore, which isn't 100%.
Right.
But yeah, the book it's like basically just like a normal person, like they qualify for this game, and then they're just allowed to roam free throughout the United States. They just have to send up a video update every 12 hours.
Yep.
It's that would be I would love to see that version of it filmed.
Yeah, the Stephen King writing as Richard Bachman version is really good. Like you said, it's more complicated because anyone can turn him in. They offer rewards to citizens for tips and stuff like that of where he is. But yeah, he can go anywhere he wants to as long as he does the video recording to send to them, to that he's not basically just like in a
Right.
submarine underwater or something like that.
Yeah.
He has to keep moving.
And that the Running Man, the novella, is one of the best depictions. It's the most realistic dystopia I think that I've read in a book, and
Yep.
I've read a good share of that genre.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, everyone
Yeah, go ahead.
um, everyone just believes what the media says. They don't really question anything they do. Everyone can be like persuaded to do something to be famous or for money.
Yep. And it ends, as Stephen King puts it, the Richard Bachman version of a happy ending, where it's him ramming his helicopter into the TV station, and he dies. But everyone in the TV station dies presumably as well, and their signal is lost, and that's kind of the victory that he gets from this.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a private jet for some reason, but you could certainly be right. Yeah, it's like that's it's just like everything about it is just like a downer. But I mean, it's really good. Another, and they used to release it as a series called the Bachman books, or four of them.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore because one of the stories, someone who shot up a school had a copy of it, so Stephen King just basically pulled it out of circulation forever.
Yeah, Rage. I actually own a first edition copy of that book.
Oh, nice. I don't think that it's interesting. I don't think it's it's certainly not the best of the four.
Mm-mm.
Another one in there that's really good. It's another dystopian type future. Is The Long Walk.
That's my favorite of the Bachman
I like
books.
that one too. Yeah, that one is basically like your There's I can't remember how many is it, 30, maybe even 100 like young men. It might be one from each state, but I could be wrong.
I think it is one from each state. I think you have to qualify, and so it's 50 different walkers. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to volunteer, but basically they walk until there's only one remaining, and if you drop off for a certain amount of time, you'll just be shot to death.
Yeah, they have to
Yeah, that
maintain a 3 mile per hour pace, and if you drop below that, you get a warning, and then after the third warning, you get shot.
yeah, it's a really good book too. It's not very long, but that's another like great example of the genre. But the movie The Running Man, even though it's not as good as the book, it's not a bad movie. I enjoy it.
No, it's still a very good movie. It's different. It's similar. Obviously, you can definitely tell it's based on the novella, but it's still it's good in different ways than the
Yeah,
novella
it's
is.
just like it's a very fun like popcorn kind of movie to watch. Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime with all the bad puns that entails.
Yep.
If you just watch it for Richard Dawson's performance as Killian, you'll get your money's worth. He's hilarious in this. He's like the ultimate like evil version of himself.
Yeah, I love Richard Dawson too. Yeah.
Jesse Ventura's in it. I can't remember his name's Bjorn something. A common collaborator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's often his stunt double, but he plays a security guard in this.
Yep.
I can't remember who else is in it. I know someone else is in it that's like somewhat well known, but I just don't remember currently. Yeah, that's a fun example of the genre. That's a twist where like the criminals, because if you want anybody to kill a bunch of people and then be allowed to go free, it's a criminal.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah, you mentioned it earlier. The Most Dangerous Game, the short story by Richard Connell. That's
Oh, I thought it was Joseph Conrad.
no, Richard Connell. Yeah, but that's one of the earliest, maybe even the earliest example of this kind of thing that I could find. Was published in January 19th, 1924. And as many of you probably already know, the basic premise is that this guy gets, offered this job or this hunt, to go on this hunt, and he gets taken to a cabin of this rich guy where there's a bunch of other kind of rich people that are getting ready for the hunt, and he realizes that he is the one they're going to be hunting. He gets a head start, and then they all kind of come after him, and the short story sort of goes from there as to what he can try to do to survive. Um, that's it was written as kind of a rebuke of big game hunting that was popular at the time with very rich people. It's sort of kind of popular again now amongst rich people. But Connell was kind of a conservationist, and he didn't agree with going to Africa and hunting gazelle and lions and rhinoceroses, stuff like that. So he wrote this story kind of based on that idea. Was published in Collier's magazine, which used to be one of the preeminent magazines to publish short stories when short fiction used to be popular in this country. It's so weird to me that it's not, considering the shorter attention spans of everyone. You would think shorter fiction would be more popular now, but it really still isn't.
No, not for a long time.
But yeah, that they made that into a movie a few different times. A direct adaptation of that, and that's the idea of hunting a person is certainly interesting. It's an interesting idea for a story.
Yeah, while exciting, I just want to remind our listeners that it's very illegal.
Yes, exactly. Don't go find a homeless person and agree to hunt him for sport.
I
Oh,
mean, it's not, in any legal jurisdictions.
right. I mean, not that anyone would ever really find out. And it's a homeless guy. No one's really gonna look for him. If you abducted a homeless guy and took him into the woods, and you and your friends decided to hunt him for sport, it's not like anyone would really ever find out unless you guys told somebody. But just don't do it because it's poor form.
See, I know this is 100% incorrect because unlike some people I know, have seen the movie Hard Target.
Yes, that's right. Hard targets
Sometimes
like
when you,
this one too, right?
yeah, there's quite a few that almost are just direct rip-offs of the Most Dangerous Game. Surviving the Game with Ice-T is one of them.
That was one of the ones I looked up. Yep.
Yeah, that's a really bad one. Hard Target is it's a movie that I enjoy, but it's not a movie that I would say is a good movie. It's that's the entire premise. It's a homeless person goes missing, and then his daughter, played by Yasmin Bleeth, hires some random guy who happens to be a martial arts expert.
Okay.
A very greasy ponytail, but she hires him to find to find her father, and then he becomes the Most Dangerous Game. So yeah,
Okay.
but he's Van Damme, so he's not some old guy who was a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, there's another one from the 80s. Fans like I am of Red Letter Media will probably recognize this. It's called Deadly Prey. It's also basically a ripoff. It's kind of a ripoff of Rambo mixed with The Most Dangerous Game. And there was a sequel later called Deadliest Prey that was featured on Best of the Worst on Red Letter Media on YouTube, like I said. But the first one was a 1987 film. It was directed by David Pryor and starred Cameron Mitchell and Troy Donahue and Ted Pryor, his brother. And
Oh,
basically, there's this guy Colonel Hogan. People are not going to get that reference. Too old. But he's got his mercenaries are in the woods, and they have this thing where people pay money to hunt human beings. So they get this guy to Ted Pryor as Mike Danton. They capture him and put him in the woods, and they're going to kill him. Unfortunately for them, he's also a highly trained Vietnam veteran.
what?
So he ends up basically going through Rambo style and murdering all of them. It's a very terrible low budget film. It's very reminiscent of like late 80s kind of low budget straight to VHS films. And then in 2013 they released a sequel called Deadliest Prey. This is famous on Half in the Bag, or on Best of the Worst on Red Letter Media, because it features three kids on the internet who are somehow tracking his progress as he's once again abducted and fighting against these guys. And one of the girl that's in the group, she says the line "True Dat" about 15
Uh,
different times, and it's just
no.
they make fun of it as like it's like a 45-year-old person or a 50-year-old person thinking like, oh, this is what teenagers talk like today. So yeah, that's a very funny episode of Red Letter Media if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, those two by David Pryor, and David Pryor's a kind of a famous low budget schlocky movie maker. So it's definitely it's worth checking out just for the. It's one of those movies that's kind of so bad it's good.
Can you imagine the Pryor brothers and how proud their mother was of them when she heard they were making a movie together?
Right.
My one son's the director, the other one the star.
Deadly
She gets all her
Prey.
she gets all her friends together to see it when it premieres.
Yeah, I think it premiered at a Blockbuster, I believe. But yeah, the I don't know. It might be difficult. I bet it's on YouTube though. I'll bet you can find it on YouTube or something like that.
We still need to call the last remaining blockbuster.
Yeah, I know. It's in. Oh, is it in Oregon or Washington? Something like that.
One of the two. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, we should definitely do that one week. Call them up and talk to them. See if we can rent a movie,
See if we read Deadliest Prey.
and then say, and then just tell them, we're not going to return it, but we're just going to wait them out.
TikTok, blockbuster, TikTok.
Oh, the. So let me see what other movies. Yeah, Surviving the Game. I looked that one up. That's one I haven't actually seen either. But oh my god, that looked horrible. I almost did that for
It's really
educating
bad.
Mike until I found the Hungover Games.
No, that one is not very good. Another one that's not. It's not exactly a game, but it's basically might as well be. Is the entire series of the shit. What are those movies called? Geez, I'm drawing a blank here. The movies where you have to like you have 24 hours where everybody's allowed to. The Purge.
Oh yeah.
The Purge movies are kind of like that, but not quite.
I think I'd count that. I mean, it's not a game so much, but you could kind of view it like that.
Sure. You mentioned the Hunger Games earlier. Did you like those? I mean, the one I saw, I enjoyed. It was kind of a weird movie just in general, but I mean, I didn't dislike.
I saw the first one. I think I've seen the first three, but I saw the first one. The first one was almost kind of disturbing because it's like, I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't used to seeing such young kids be murdered on screen, but it was decently acted. I think that's Jennifer Lawrence is weird to me. Every time I see her in a quote unquote grown up movie, she just looks like a little kid playing dress up to me. Because she has one of those faces where she looks so young and everything. It's like, oh hey, it's your little sister that dressed up in mommy's clothes. And I don't, she's a decent actress. I don't think she's as good of an actress as a lot of people think she is. But
I've
this,
only seen her in the Hunger Games and the X-Men movies where she's in, and I mean, if you replace her with any other person, I don't think I would know her.
yeah, and I think this is the right, at least for the time, was the right age range for her, and everything. So she's decent in the movie. I really think that Woody Harrelson and the woman whose name I cannot remember for the life of me that plays Effie Trinket, I think they both do a really good job. They're the strongest acting pair I think in the film. But yeah, it was enjoyable. It was a decent movie. It wasn't anything that really blew me away, but I liked it. I liked it
A
enough to see the other ones.
a rare appearance by Wes Bentley.
Yes, that's right. Oh, but yeah, so which one did you see? Did you see the first one?
I honestly might have seen two or three of them. I don't really know, but they
Okay.
just seem like the exact same movie. The ones I did see.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's a lot. After you get past the first one, it's a lot of repetitive stuff. Oh, we're gonna do the Hunger Games again?
I mean, I guess if you could, get unlimited funds from doing the same thing, why not? It's just nothing new and nothing interesting, really.
Yeah. But the Purge, that's an interesting one to me. I've seen the first Purge movie. My wife really liked it. I thought it was okay. It's one of those Ethan Hawke. You forget that he's a good actor until you see him in a movie again, and you're like, oh yeah, Ethan Hawke's a good actor.
Yeah, he's not bad.
But yeah,
And
that's an
Lena
interesting movie.
Headey is in that too, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Before Game of Thrones,
Yep. But yeah,
on
that's
her last legs, her last chance.
right. But yeah, that's I liked the Purge movie. It was the whole idea to me is ridiculous that it would ever happen, but the movie itself is pretty decent. I haven't seen the sequels like the any of the other ones. My wife kind of wants to see the sequels, and every time she suggests it, I'm like, oh yeah, but we could watch this too. So yeah, those I hear those are not as good as the original film. What was the other one I was thinking of? That's kind of it's a stretch, but I can't remember. I mean, like the Maze Runner is it's another one of those dystopian
Yeah,
future
yeah, I haven't
ones.
seen all that. My wife, is a big fan of the first one. I don't think she's seen the other two though. Maybe she's seen the second one, but I was supposed to watch the first one. I just never got around to it. I just realized something else. Ender's Game is sort of like this.
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
I mean, spoiler alert for a movie that most people didn't know existed or boycotted.
Right.
The entire premise is that he's in a military academy that takes place like in a ship, not a ship. It's like a rotating satellite type thing in orbit. And then he's like training to become a general to fight these things called the Formers, which are like these big insect type creatures. So the whole movie, he's just like training up on various things, and they keep advancing him. And then finally, they have him go play this game that's the biggest simulation of the whole battle ever. And he finds out after it the whole time that the last simulation was real, and he actually killed all the Formers.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, that's definitely a murder game. Just he didn't even realize he was playing it. I haven't
Exactly.
seen it. This is the last Starfighter a murder game.
Oh yeah, that's kind of true too, because he plays that game and then does it in real life. Yeah, The Last Starfighter is one of my favorite films. It's one of those movies that I when I was because it was such a cult movie when I was a kid. I used to think, oh, I'm the only one. Or like one of the only ones that really likes this movie or knows about this movie. And then as I got older and the internet came up and everything, I realized, oh, like millions of kids all experienced the same thing and liked this movie when they were my age.
That's funny. There's another movie. I cannot remember the name of it. It's called like Series 9 or Season 9. Does that sound familiar to you?
District 9?
No, it's not District 9. The whole premise of the movie is like a game show where people are recorded. They have like GoPro cell cams, that kind of stuff. But they have to kill everybody else. Like the only person left, the last person alive wins.
Okay.
But it actually takes place in modern times. It's just like assume, like it's just somehow like, oh yeah, we're allowing this, whatever.
Right.
It's like a pretty low budget. I don't know if it was an indie movie or just like someone did it with a bunch of friends. It's not bad though. It's interesting. Some of the actors are pretty good in it.
Okay. I remembered the one that I haven't seen that, but I'll try to look that up. The one that I was thinking of. Now this is really really a stretch. But what do you think of Final Destination as sort of like a murder game kind of thing?
I haven't seen those movies.
Okay.
I know the premise, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so the premise for anyone that doesn't know is that at the beginning of each one of these movies, somebody has a vision that they're going to die on whatever. In the first one, it's a plane crash. And he stops him and a group of his friends from actually getting on the plane. The plane does crash, so the vision was prophetic. Everyone dies, and they think they've been spared, but then death, one at a time, comes for them in gruesome they suffer much more because they didn't just basically accept their fate. That's kind of the premise of the movie. So I mean, it's sort of a game for death. They're like there's the character of death is actually played by a person. I don't think that we see it in the first one, or that we see him in the first one. But I think it's maybe the second one that he shows up. But it's Tony Todd, the Candyman.
Oh, nice. I like Tony Todd.
Yeah, I do too. But he
Great
shows.
film, man.
I think he shows up as like an Undertaker or something like that, and he has a conversation with one of them, and it's not outright said this is Death, but it's heavily implied that he's Death and he's coming for them.
Yeah, I really like Tony Todd. I would like to see him in more things. Like he would have been great in American Gods, but I think he's a little bit too old to play like a Newton's role.
Yeah, yeah, he is. Yeah, he's very good. He actually he liked and retweeted one of my tweets one time. That's my little internet claim to
Nice.
fame. I did a review of a movie he was in called The Man from Earth, which is it's a low budget movie, but it's about this professor who, after like 10 years working at this college, decides he's going to leave, and his friends come to try to talk him out of it. And the whole movie basically takes place in his cabin. They start having a conversation, and he brings up a hypothetical of what would you think about somebody who just never died or wouldn't die. And it turns out that he reveals to them that he is from the Paleolithic era. I think he's a caveman, and he has
Wait,
lived.
wait. What's what
What?
called? I think I might have heard about this before. What's this called again?
The Man from Earth.
That sounds familiar.
It's a very good movie. It's one of those where not a lot happens, but it's an idea movie with a lot of good conversation. And so he claims that he's lived for thousands of years and everything. He talks about different things that he's seen and stuff like that. One of the interesting things is people will tell him, "Well, what was it like during this?" or ask him, "What was it like during this era?" And he says, "I don't remember." And he'll say, think about it. I've lived, whatever it is, 2,500, 3,000 years or something like that. There,
6,000 at the most.
right. The human brain can only hold so much information. So he forgets a ton of his life. Um, and yeah, so it's sort of left up in the air until I guess maybe towards the end of the movie whether or not he's just nuts or he's actually telling the truth in this. And the funny part about it is, or the interesting part about it is, each of the people that he brings is a professor of a different thing. So there's like a history professor, and there's a psychology professor, there's a biology professor, like a chemistry professor, and they all kind of question him, kind of going in a circle almost, based
So
on
kind of like back to school at the end.
yeah, but they're based on their own point of view. You know what I mean? Like the psychologist asks a lot of psychological questions and stuff
Sure.
like that. And so it's very interesting in that respect. But yeah, it's quite an interesting film. But yeah, he's in that. But I don't know. Would you like Final Destination? Would you consider that kind of a murder game if we're considering that the one playing it is death?
Well, I mean, I think that would only be fair. Finally, a movie that roots for death.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those. It's like kind of on the edge of torture porn, I guess, because they're not really being tortured, but it's one of those movies where you sort of root for the kills. I would say the first one and the second one, I haven't seen a lot of them. I think there's like 8 or 9 of them, but so I've only seen a few of them. But I would call them good movies. I think, at least as far as horror goes, because they're actually original and there's artistry to them, because the whole point is making the death like cool to see, like cool looking and elaborate and stuff like that. And you can tell they put a lot of work in the writing stages and in the like staging these different practical effects and everything to make it to make it interesting. So I definitely appreciate that about the movies.
Actually, you just reminded me of an entire other whole series of murder game movies.
Okay.
But much like this Final Destination franchise, these are only a game for one person. The entire Saw franchise are a whole series of murder game movies.
That's true. You're right.
I mean, the first Saw movie, there's a lot that it could have done to be better.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the premise was interesting. Not Danny DeVito. Sorry, Danny Glover's the writing was so bad that Danny Glover, who is an amazing actor, if you don't believe that, watch The Color of Purple, and he's just great in that.
Yep.
Some of the dialogue in this movie was some of the worst fucking piece of shit dialogue you've ever heard in your entire life.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just like if someone had talked to you like this in real life, might check them into like some kind of like a mental hospital because they clearly are having some kind of issue processing the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole premise is like there's a game. Only one person knows the way to beat the game. His name is Jigsaw. I've seen the first movie. I've actually, oddly enough, I do this sometimes. I've gone on Wikipedia and read about the rest of the franchise, but I have no desire to see it.
Yeah, I've actually seen them all, unfortunately.
A lot because I say I know there's like at a certain point like oh it's not him, it's his protege, and then his protege's protege. It just seems
Yeah.
very convoluted, but I mean the whole genre is just like it's a game. Like if you don't, it doesn't even say would you like to play a game or something like that.
Yeah, he does. I want to play a game, Dr. Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's that one is definitely for sure. That is a murder game for Jigsaw, and you know and it's one that you can survive if you do what he wants you to do to cherish your life or whatever. One of the worst lines in the in the first one is that I think it's one of the cops say, well, he's not actually a serial killer because he's never actually killed anybody. And it's like, bullshit. Then why is or he's dead now, but why was Charles Manson in jail then? It's so ridiculous.
actually, I would like to take this opportunity to point out that while most people think that Charles Manson didn't kill anybody, there is substantial evidence, according to Vincent Bugliosi's book Helter Skelter, that
Yeah.
he did kill a ranch hand named Shorty.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He just didn't. He wasn't at.
Yeah, he wasn't at the Tate
Yeah.
LaBianca murders.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here's another tangent. Have you ever read Helter Skelter? That is the best true crime book I've ever read in my whole life, and I've read a lot of.
I have, and I absolutely agree that my sister had it when I was probably way too young to read a book like that because I think I was maybe 11 or 12. But she had the book, and I borrowed it from her and read it. It's fascinating. It's gruesome. Anyone out there that's interested in true crime books, check out Helter Skelter. I totally agree with you, Mike. It is the best true crime book I've ever read. You've probably read more than I have, but I've read a few, and it's
Sure.
definitely the best.
The amount of detail is just astounding. Like
Yeah.
every aspect of every part of the murders are thoroughly examined. And he wrote a book about O.J. Simpson as well that I borrowed from the library. That was like he basically definitively, proved that O.J. was beyond a reasonable doubt guilty. Shocker.
Yeah. What's that one called?
But
Because
I
I
mean,
haven't
like
read that.
it's called Outrage, I think.
Okay.
And he's just basically talks about all the faults that the prosecution had, and it's just like wow. I mean, they just really really dropped the ball in so many different ways. I mean, when you put Vincent Bugliosi up against anyone else, you could say half competent, assuming he's like the level considered competent. But I mean, it's just you don't understand how he even got away at this point from the case he presents. And he also did one on the Kennedy assassination, which we were talking about yesterday with the Skeptical Skeptics.
Yeah, I would. I'll check out his bibliography and mark those two down because I like him a lot as a writer, and that Helter Skelter book is fantastic. Yeah, the for any of you that are thinking of getting into a murder cult or leading one, and but you're not going to take part in the murders, yeah, don't. Look at the real life example. Don't look at Jigsaw because Charles Manson was convicted under the joint responsibility law, which basically says that any member of a criminal conspiracy can be held jointly responsible for the actions of the entire group. So you will be arrested if you want to do something like that. And
in a lot of states, it's just felony murder if you commit if a murder happens that you're part to as far as a felony goes, then you're responsible for the murder.
Yep, exactly. Well, yeah, that's and Manson would have faced the death penalty had the death penalty not been overturned by the Supreme Court in 1975, and
Yeah, I think he actually was originally sentenced to death row, but then they
he
overturned
was.
it. And then when they reinstated it, they couldn't. It was like I don't know if it was considered double jeopardy or
Yeah,
what, but
exactly. Yeah, the Supreme Court overruled it. His sentence was commuted from the death penalty to life in prison, and then they didn't. No, I don't think they could have retried him. I think it was I think it was double jeopardy. So they just kept him in prison for the rest of his life. But yeah, so don't join any murder conspiracies because that's not good to
no,
do.
no.
I'm trying to think. Are there any more that I'm not thinking of? Murder game movies?
I'm sure there's plenty that I'm not even thinking of right now. And if you expand it into books and TV
Right.
shows,
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't find a ton of TV shows based on it. I guess, yeah, I'm sure they're out there, but I guess that this premise it has a limited runtime. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't. It'd be hard to do 8 seasons of someone trapped in a murder game. What about that
oh
movie?
for sure.
What about that movie, The Game, with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn? That's not really. That's not
Yeah,
really
it's
a
not really a
murder
murder
one.
game.
Yeah,
No. And really, again, speaking of David Fincher movies, Seven is also a game to only one protagonist, John Doe.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, like I think the hallmarks of it is basically setting up the situation. You know what I mean? Like kind of like he does in Seven, like Jigsaw does in Saw,
Sure.
and and watching people. It's like a maze, like rats in a maze, watching people kind of run through this stuff for entertainment. When you think about it that way, it's I guess it's kind of a commentary on the way that like movies and the way that people will look at other people's suffering for entertainment. Obviously not all movies are about that, but
Sure.
the movies that
Yeah, I
are.
think I think most murder games movies are a commentary on how much we allow TV and movies to invade our personal lives and how greedy people are for entertainment, even if it's the cost of blood. Even back to the Roman times,
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about Caesar.
yeah.
That kind of shit happened back then.
True, the original murder games, I guess, is the Colosseum and the gladiator fights.
Right, and I'm sure it predates that even.
But yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
sometimes a boxing match becomes a murder game. It's rare, but
Yep,
you didn't
that's
know it
true.
going in.
That's true. Even football too. I mean, it hasn't happened since I can't remember his name, Chuck something, but he was a Detroit Lion, but he died on the field. That was the last NFL player to do so. I think
And
in
it's haunted the team since.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I've been really shocked no one's died. Like, I can't remember who it was who was pointing out, but like when you have like people like Mario Williams,
Hmm.
the like what he's like 6'6", 300 pounds and runs like a super fast 40 defensive end.
Yep.
How no one's died with him on the field, I don't know. It's just sheer chance at this point.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. Um, there was one other one that I was gonna bring up that oh yeah, have you ever seen The Cabin in the Woods, the Joss Whedon movie?
Yeah, I did. I'm not a huge fan of that movie, though. I know a lot of people are really like into it.
I would probably consider that a murder
Yeah,
game
yeah, we
too.
definitely say that's a game where you're playing against the old ones.
Yeah, and yeah, so I would for any of you who haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, this is a spoiler, but it turns out it looks like it's a regular slasher movie, but it turns out that there are people behind it, like kind of contriving all these things to happen using magic gas and just a bunch of other kind of convoluted things. But that's another one where it's clearly the old ones are supposed to represent us, and we're they're doing this all for our pleasure. That it's kind of a meta. This is the way horror movies are made, sort of thing. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
that's definitely a murder game too, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I just thought of another one, but it just vanished. But yeah, I mean, the more we talk, the more I think of them. But it's just like a really weird, specific genre that I enjoy. Like if you tell me there's a movie where, oh no, in this movie, this guy has to collect these 5 rings from different boroughs of New York, or he gets shot in the head. I'm like, okay, I'll watch that. I mean,
It's
Die Hard with a Vengeance had a murder game at one.
yep, that's right, and that's one of the best Die Hard movies.
Yeah, and every time I watch it, I forgot how I did the puzzle where you weigh the water, and then I figure it out right before John Claim does.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it's funny because I hadn't really thought about it before if I was a fan of this genre or not, but I've seen a lot of the movies on this list. So I guess I am like I don't like action. I like some action movies, but kind of straight action movies are not my favorite genre of film, but this very niche specific genre of because some of them are kind of action movies. Um I like this for some reason. I don't know what that says about me, but I definitely I do enjoy them. And I think
I think they're fun.
yeah, there's something fun and there's something kind of cathartic about them too, I think. That's sort of good for the soul. So
Yeah, it's like a release. It's cathartic.
yeah, exactly. Do you know what that word means, Mike?
No, what?
Any of you that don't know what we're talking about, go out and find a copy of American Movie and just watch it and then thank us later because I love that movie.
You're welcome.
But yeah, that is our show for tonight. We will see you next week. Oh, real quick, 2 days ago, the our retro late fee came out. We're talking about the movie Reality Bites, the Ethan Hawke, who we talked about earlier, and Winona Ryder film directed by Ben Stiller. They gave him the directing job for this movie based on his work on the Ben Stiller show on MTV. And any of you that don't like Ben Stiller, just trust me, this is still a really good movie.
Yeah, I just like it's very '90s.
It is very 90s.
Like it's like hard to. I mean, everything about it is very '90s. I mean, the fact that just Winona Ryder and Janine Garofalo and Ethan Hawke are in it is very '90s.
Steve Zahn's
Yeah,
in it too, though.
yeah, but I mean, I enjoy it. Not
Yeah.
my favorite movie, but I won't watch it again. But I liked it the first time.
So yeah, so check that out and check out our Patreon. Throw us a buck if you want to help us keep the show going. You can find us on Twitter at massivelatefee.com or Massive Late Fee on Twitter, Massive Late Fee on Facebook, Gmail, all those places. Go and look at our audio commentaries on Bandcamp. We would definitely appreciate that. What else? Oh, tell a friend. If you like the show, tell a friend. That's probably the most that you could do to help us out. Really helps cultivate a lot of the listeners. And rate and subscribe on iTunes. Well, we don't say that very much, but that is definitely another big help that helps us with the whatever the algorithm is for. I don't understand any of it, but having
Myspace.com/massive late fee.
there you go. Yeah, go to that too and be in our top 8. So,
What are hey? Why don't we tell them our Twitter handles if you want to talk to us directly?
oh yeah. Go ahead.
Ooh,
It's
late underscore Mike.
Yeah,
or is it Mike underscore late?
I think it's late underscore Mike,
Sounds about right.
or just look up massive late fee Mike. It comes up when you search that too.
Okay, so there I am.
And you can talk to me at Phillips Writing on Twitter directly if you want, or you can. I do a lot of the massive late fee Twitter too, so you can probably catch me on there. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to see on the show, anything you want us to talk
Any
about, let us know.
topics?
Yep.
Talk amongst yourself.
Yeah, exactly. We're always hungry for more topics, but thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
See ya.